This video will show you how easy it is to achieve meaningful use with InteliDOX version 4, which has been certified as a complete EHR, or electronic health record, for Stage 1 of the Medicare Medicaid Meaningful Use Incentives Program in 2011 and 2012. In this video, we'll demonstrate the indicators that InteliDOX uses to identify patients who are missing one or more types of information that are required for meaningful use, and demonstrate the brand new patient summary screen, where you can enter most of the information that's required. Please note that this video was recorded using a beta test version of the software, so the program may look slightly different at your practice. When you open the appointment screen, you'll see a new To-Do column that shows at a glance how many of the required elements are missing from each patient's chart. Once you select a patient, the To-Dos indicator over here at the right also shows if elements are missing, and clicking on the To-Dos indicator pops up the To-Do list. Each of the items on the To-Do list is a clickable link. For example, if the to-do list asks you to update the patient's problem list, just click the problem list link to open the patient summary screen. Then click the Problems button at the top left corner of the window to jump right to the problem section. You can drag the to-do list out of your way to make data entry easier, or close it by clicking the X at the top right corner. Bring it back at any time by clicking on the To-Dos indicator again. If you want to get out of the patient summary screen, first check this Save button at the bottom right corner. If it's bright green, that indicates you've added or edited some information on this screen without saving it. After you click the Save button, it'll turn pale green, meaning there are no changes that need to be saved. You can then exit from the patient summary screen by clicking this X button at the bottom left corner. To get back into the summary screen, you can click the To-Dos indicator whenever it appears up here at the top right corner of the screen. Then click on one of the links that corresponds to information that's stored on the summary screen. You can also get to the summary screen by clicking the patient's name. You can navigate through the screen by scrolling down, or you can jump to a specific section of the screen by clicking on one of these buttons at the top left corner of the screen. Let's work our way down the patient summary screen and discuss the types of data that you're expected to enter here. First is the patient's demographics data. In addition to date of birth and sex, which are typically imported from your billing system, you'll need to record the patient's race, ethnicity, and primary language. You can choose an option by clicking your mouse in the field you want to complete, typing part of a word, then clicking the item you want from the resulting list, or by double-clicking on a field to see all the available options. Some fields, like the race field, can hold multiple values. To select the first option, click your mouse at the end of the field, then type part of the second option, and select it from the list. Fill in the ethnicity and language fields the same way. Type part of what you're looking for, or just double-click in the field to see all the available options. Then select the one you want by clicking on it. Another type of required data is the patient's smoking status. Just double-click in the smoking field and select the appropriate option. Never smoker for someone who's smoked fewer than 100 cigarettes in their life, former smoker for a patient who smoked at least 100 cigarettes in the past, etc. If you select a status that indicates the patient currently smokes, you can optionally enter the most recent date on which you counsel the patient about that. To complete date fields, you can manually type in a date in day/month/year format, or you can double-click in date fields to view a small calendar from which you can select the date. Or if the date field is empty, you can press the T key for today on your keyboard to enter today's date. Entering the patient's email address is optional, but for reporting purposes, you should select either standard mail or email to indicate how the patient would prefer to receive reminder notices. After entering or changing information on the patient summary screen, be sure to click the green Save button at the bottom right corner of the screen. Next, let's scroll down to the Vitals section, or jump down to it by clicking the Vitals button up here at the top left corner of the screen. For purposes of meaningful use, you'll need to enter at least the patient's height, weight, and blood pressure. Other vital signs, such as pulse and respiration, may also have been configured on your system. To create a new set of vitals, just click the Add button. The date and time will default to today and now, but if you're back entering vitals that were previously taken, you can double-click in the date field to use the pop-up calendar, and you can modify the time by typing in a new value in military or 24-hour format, including seconds. Enter the vitals using either your computer's regular keyboard or by tapping or clicking on the virtual keyboard at the right side of the Vitals section. The patient's BMI will be calculated for you automatically after you enter the patient's height and weight. Height and weight can be entered using English or metric values. Whichever one you enter will automatically be converted to the other system as well. You can enter comments in the Notes field. When you're done, be sure to click Save. If the patient has more than one set of vitals, you can move back and forth through the sets using the left and right arrow buttons at the top of the vital section. You can correct or complete vitals by selecting a set of vitals if there's more than one, clicking the Edit button, making your changes, and clicking Save. The Graphs button lets you view a variety of graphs of the patient's vital signs over time, which is a meaningful use requirement for patients between the ages of 2 and 20. Next on the patient summary screen is the Allergies section, which must contain at least one entry for each patient. If the patient denies any drug allergies, you should click the NKDA or No Known Drug Allergies button. To add a new allergen to the list, click the Add link at the right side of the Allergies section. If you know the date on which the allergy was identified, you can enter it in the Identified column by typing it in or double-clicking in the field to view a pop-up calendar. If the allergy was identified today, you can click in the field, then press the T key on your keyboard to enter today's date. If you double-click in the Allergen/Medication field, InteliDOX will show a list of the allergies that have been most often selected in the past, and you can choose one of these by clicking on it. If the allergen you want isn't on the list, type part of its name, then select it from the list by clicking on it. Please note that the government is concerned primarily with medication allergies, so nearly everything that appears on the list is a medication or a medical supply. If you want to enter a non-medication allergy, such as an allergy to a food, just type it in. If InteliDOX shows the phrase Free Text, you can press the Tab key to save what you typed. If InteliDOX displays a match that you don't want, press the Escape key at the top left corner of your computer's keyboard to save only the text you typed, then press Tab. In the Reactions column, you can either type the reaction that the patient has to this allergen, or double-click in the field to see a list of possible reactions. Like the Race field, the Reactions field can hold multiple values. For example, if the patient experiences both nausea and vomiting, you can select nausea by typing part of the word or double-clicking in the field, then selecting nausea from the list, then click after the word nausea, type V, and click vomiting on the list. The Source field is typically used to indicate which of your practice's providers identified the allergen, but if the information was provided by the patient's parent, or someone other than a provider, you can type that information here. The down arrow beside the Source field can be used to indicate whether the allergy is severe, mild, moderate, or unspecified. It can also be used to deactivate an allergy that no longer exists or was added to the list in error, and if there are multiple allergies on the list, you can move them up and down, to the top or bottom of the list. Use the Notes field to enter brief comments about allergies if desired. As soon as you've selected a description for an allergen, a new blank spot for another allergen will open up at the bottom of the Allergies section, so you can record as many allergies as you need to. It's a good idea to click the Save button as you complete each section of the patient summary screen, although if you prefer, you can wait until you filled out the whole thing, then press Save. The next section on the summary screen is Medications. Let's jump to it by clicking the Medications button. Like the Allergies section, this should contain at least one entry for every patient. For those who aren't taking any medications, you can click the Mark Patient as Having No Meds button. Any active medications that have already been added using the InteliDOX prescription module or e-prescribing will automatically show up here. To view the patient's entire medication list, including lapsed or stopped prescriptions, click the History link. The Active link lets you switch back to just medication the patient still takes. There's an Add link at the right side of the Medication section. If you click it, you'll be taken to the Prescription module, where you can use the ERX button to e-prescribe new medications. Because e-prescribing is another requirement for meaningful use, you should avoid using the New RX button except to record immunizations and to print prescriptions for controlled substances on pre-printed forms. Once you exit from the Med screen, the patient summary screen will appear again. Another meaningful use requirement is an up-to-date problem list. Even if the patient has no active health issues, you should still add an entry for something like routine exam in this section. This section works pretty much the same way as the Allergies section. Click the Add link and enter an onset date for the condition if it's known. If you're adding a routine exam entry based on today's visit, you can just press the T key on the keyboard while your cursor is in this field to enter today's date. In the Code Description field, you can type the ICD-9 code or part of the description for the problem. If multiple matches are found, click on the appropriate one. If the problem was diagnosed by one of your practice's providers, select the provider in the By column. The Status column will default to Active, but if this is an ongoing condition like diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, etc., you can double-click in the Status field and select Chronic instead. There are also statuses of Resolved for conditions that were addressed by surgery or other treatment, or from which the patient recovered, and Archived for problems that are now irrelevant or that were entered in error. If you know the date on which the problem was diagnosed, record that using the Diagnosed On field, and enter any desired comments in the Notes field. As always, click Save to store your changes. The Procedures list, which is next on the patient summary screen, isn't specifically required for meaningful use, but it does tie into other meaningful use requirements, like clinical quality measures and clinical decision support. These features may need to check the procedures list to see whether certain procedures have been done, whether the patient has had a certain number and type of office visits, etc. Because of this, you should at least enter an office visit procedure code each time the patient comes in. Updating the procedure list is similar to updating the problem list. Click the Add link, enter the date of the procedure, you can click in the field and press T for today, type the procedure code or a bit of the description and click on the one you want, enter the provider who did the procedure in the By column, and if necessary, double-click in the Status column to select a status other than Completed. You can enter a note if needed, then click the Save button. The Test Results section displays lab test values that have been imported using an electronic interface between InteliDOX and your lab, or that have been manually entered. You can only view, not modify, the information in this section. But if you click the Add link at the right side of the Test Results section, InteliDOX will take you to the Test Results Data Entry screen. If your system administrator has set up some lab test types, you can type in test values here. Once you save them, the patient summary screen will reappear. The Data Tag section is used to enter some types of information that don't fit neatly elsewhere in InteliDOX. Information that you enter as data tags is used by some of the meaningful use clinical quality measures. For example, if you choose to report your progress on the Asthma Assessments measure, you'll need to enter a data tag for each patient for whom you assess daytime and nighttime asthma symptoms. To create a new data tag, click the Add link at the right side of the section, enter the date of service, remember that you can press T for today, select the provider, type in a bit of the description, or double-click in the Field column to see a list of available data tags, and select the appropriate one. There's also a value field that may contain modifiers appropriate for the tag you just selected, or you can manually type a value here. Data tags will default to an active status, but can be changed to no longer active, posted in error, or archived if needed. As always, click Save after completing the section. Those are the sections of the patient summary screen that are used to store data related to meaningful use. Remember, to exit from the patient summary screen, click the X at the bottom left corner. To get back into the summary, click the patient's name, or if they're lacking some meaningful use data, click on the To-Dos indicator and then a link, and you'll be taken to the proper screen for entering the missing data. You can edit most of the data that's been entered on the patient summary screen. You can't change the description of an entry, but you can change dates, providers, statuses, and notes associated with entries by clicking the Edit link at the side of the section you want to update. Be sure to click the Save button to store your changes. The patient summary screen is also used to satisfy meaningful use requirements that have to do with providing clinical information to patients and sharing information with other providers. All the required information is on the summary screen. When you click Export or Print, InteliDOX will ask you to specify how the information will be used, so it'll know which meaningful use measure it applies to. If you're exporting, you'll have an option to enter an encryption password, which is an excellent idea to keep information private if the file falls into the wrong hands. The recipient of the file will need the password and a free program called 7-Zip in order to open an encrypted file. If you're not concerned with the security of the file, you can leave the encryption password field blank and click the Go button. Typically, you'll want to click the Save button and select a location for the file, such as a thumb drive supplied by a patient or a directory on your computer's hard drive where you can save the file long enough to attach it to an email to another provider. If you'd prefer a printout, click Print instead of Export to print the report immediately to your default printer, or click Queued Patient Print to send the report to the patient's queued printing list, so it'll be ready when the patient checks out.